Welcome to the Healing Path. I'm Laura Donnelly, founder of the Healing Path Conversation Series and Dancing with Ease Body-Brain Balance. People hire me to teach them to move out of pain and into healing. These conversations with friends and colleagues offer many perspectives on healing. And the thing that we all have in common is the concept that healing begins inside ourselves with a decision to heal, and it expands outward from there. So really, it doesn't matter the modality. Many of these modalities can be used in combination with traditional medicine. But this decision inside that I'm going to listen to my body, I'm going to make the choices that are good for my body, and I'm going to work with a practitioner who understands my partnership in my healing. And I'm really excited that Katie Wood is going to be our guest today, and she will talk about her journey and how she embodies this participation in her own health and healing. So I'll bring Katie into the studio. Hi.
Hello.
It's so good to see you and to be able to share. I think that this topic is super important at this holiday time because there's all this family pressure.
Mm-hmm.
And for people who are hoping to start their own little small family in I forgot what that's called, the birth family, whatever, as opposed to the extended family. This is kind of a time of pressure
Mm-hmm.
about we don't have this yet. And Christmas, and what is Christmas? What is Christmas without kids? For me, that's always a question. So I'm so glad you can come and talk. Please share a little bit about your history, how you started working with people to help kind of a more holistic, organic, healthy way to make the fertility journey.
Sure. So I am a pharmacist. That is my background, my educational background. I graduated in 2013 and I pretty much went right into retail pharmacy, which is where most pharmacists end up going after graduation. I had been interning with the company for, I think, around 5 years. So it was kind of a no-brainer decision. And, I feel like the first few years of my career was really more on like autopilot, just really learning how to be a pharmacist. You learn everything that you learn in school, but then you have to apply it in real life. So just kind of getting comfortable in what that looks like for me and in the environment that I was in. I was in a small town, very tight knit community. Everyone really knew everyone, which I loved. Um, but as I kind of started navigating life on my own outside of work, I had really kind of gone down my own personal like healing journey, and it really started with it's actually kind of funny, one of like a networking party, but it was for like a makeup and a personal care line, but their goal and their passion was to take out all the toxins that are typically found in conventional bath and body products and makeup. So that really opened my eyes to all the toxins that we're exposed to in our everyday life, in our home. I mean, on the products that we apply to our bodies every day and what we wash our clothes in. And that just really turned into me going down a rabbit hole, because I think once, I always tell my husband, you can't unknow what you know, what you now know. So I couldn't take that information and just forget about it. So we really started cleaning up our own home and space, and then eventually a few years later we decided that we wanted to start our family. And by that point I had been on birth control for probably over 13 years. And when I discussed with at the time, the OB that I was seeing, that we wanted to start trying. When should I stop my birth control? She told me I could stop my birth control and start trying to conceive in the same month. I do believe that she at least made sure I was taking a prenatal, but I was advised I could stop and start in the same month, and that's what we did. And it's actually funny that you brought up the holidays, because that was in November of 2017. And this is just like a little side note. And I completely thought I would be announcing at Christmas that we were pregnant. I wanted to surprise the family and have that be a really nice holiday memory. But of course, that did not happen. So yeah, we had our struggles with getting pregnant, and I would say I was relatively healthy. We ate healthy, I exercised, but I mean, really, was I that healthy? Probably not, because my stress in the retail world at that time was high. So I reached back out to the OB a few more months into our journey, and the only real advice I got was, your cycles are regular, you're healthy, just keep trying. So that's what we did. Um, I think about 7 months into it, with my pharmacist brain, I was always researching, trying to figure out what could I do, what supplement could I take. And I came across an article that discussed how acupuncture can help with fertility. So, of course, I go to find someone near me. And the woman that I found, actually, she was no longer practicing in my area, but she recommended a gentleman. So then I went to go see him, and he was absolutely amazing. It was such a great experience. And my husband and I both truly feel that this was really what helped my fertility and us to conceive. We used traditional Chinese medicine, acupuncture, moxibustion, gua sha, Chinese herbs. And what he really found, because they'll test your pulse on your wrist, they'll look at your tongue. Your tongue can tell you so much about your health. And he found that we really needed to kind of get my blood moving, kind of help with like new, fresh blood. Stagnant was the word he used. I can't remember exactly all the terms, but I think like my spleen was, had some issues as well. And I have a colder constitution. So really focusing on warming foods, kind of trying to avoid or limit raw foods, because that can cool the body. And so while I was working with him, a few months into it, I actually switched OB offices, and I started seeing a midwife there, thinking that maybe they would be more naturally minded. And I was kind of sadly given the same information, like, you're healthy, just keep trying. But if you want to, you could schedule your appointment with the fertility specialist at the 1 year mark. There was no, let's take some labs, let's take a hard look at your nutrition, your stress, your sleep, nothing. Well, luckily for me, I ended up getting pregnant at the very beginning of September. So about 10 months. It took us about 10 months into that. And I was able to cancel I did schedule an appointment with the fertility specialist. It would have been in October. And I was able to cancel that. And I truly feel to my core that if it wasn't for the acupuncture and all of the work that we did, that is really what healed my body from that chronic birth control use. I really feel that that's what helped us get pregnant.
It's a powerful story, and it's one that's filled with things that people can miss, because there's a huge push for eating tons of fresh and raw, but it
Yeah.
depends on your personal constitution.
Mhm.
So when you read an article, when you find something, the the information can be great, and it can be really have been as life transforming as what you
Mhm.
did
Mhm.
for this other person, but you aren't that other person. And so I go to an acupuncturist also, and I really like the energetic shifts in terms, and
Mhm.
it's more like an alignment.
Yeah.
And um and let's face it, the world is full of stress, you know.
Mm.
And and we're made to deal with stress. We just aren't made to deal with chronic stress
Right.
all the time that never gives up.
Yep.
And I also um I think that you're bringing up an interesting thing about how long the birth control. I mean, those are hormones. How every person is going to be different in how long it takes your body to expel those.
Sure.
And and although they know how to stop or change the birth control. See, now I'm going to sound stupid because I never took birth control pills. So does it stop your ovulation?
So it depends on the type of birth control, but most of them, yes, most of them inhibit ovulation from happening.
And see, and while that solves the immediate goal of not getting pregnant at the wrong
Mhm.
time, that the consequences, right, and the
Mhm.
unintended consequences, I think that they're just now starting to discover
Yeah.
what this is, and what are the consequences of changing the organic balance of hormones in your system for a long period of time.
Mhm.
And again, everybody has to make the decision that works for them and the situation they're in. But I also think, when you're 18, 16, 20, whenever you decide to take birth control,
Mhm.
nobody says to you, here are the other options for birth control that are not chemically related.
Right.
The benefits and challenges are, I was young, and I was going somewhere where the all the doctors were coming in the university were coming out of the military system. And so they had, and in the 70s, everybody in the military was guys. So they were not used to dealing with women.
Mhm.
And IUDs were really all the rage. And my mom taught dancing. So she knew a lot of women of all ages, but some older than me who had had terrible infections from IUDs. So she says to me, don't use the IUD. Whatever you do, don't use that. And then she said, she is so funny, don't take the pill, because like the pill people can take now is so much less than the first pill they made.
Yeah.
And it was a test. And she says, so here we have all these girls in college who don't want to get pregnant, who are free to do what they want, and they're testing this drug. And I'm like, okay, so if I don't do that, I don't do this, what do I do? She says, get a diaphragm. So I went to student health. I said, I want a diaphragm. Well, we only have one doctor who can do that, and they're not here. And I'm like, ah. And so then they gave me all the stuff and to try to get me to take the pill.
Mhm.
I'm compulsive, right? And I mean, I think you are also very studious. And like, if somebody gives you a pamphlet for a drug, probably you read it all. Then, after I read it all, I go to my pharmacist and I say, I need you to explain these highlighted places to me, because all of these things sound worse than my symptom
Right.
that I'm trying to take care of. And because pharmacists know more about compounds, about medical chemicals, because that's what medicine is chemicals, right?
Mhm.
Whether you take a willow bark or aspirin, it's a pain relieving chemical.
Mhm.
So I read this thing and it said, if you have a history of heart disease in your family, don't take this. And my grandma had just had a heart attack and she had had a stroke before that. And I'm like, well, I'm not taking this.
Yep.
But all my friends are saying, oh, don't be silly. that won't happen to you till later. But not a single person said to me anything about how birth control might impact my ability to have children down the road.
Mm-hmm.
And so I really think education for women is super important. And finding a practitioner you can work with, which is sounds like your acupuncture person was somebody that listened to you, saw you,
Mm-hmm.
talked to you, probably answered every question you had.
Yeah.
I mean, and acupuncture is very scientific in its own system. And so having people explain all that is just fascinating for me. And so I read in your bio that you had your baby at home. So did you have a find a midwife, a doula, a person that came?
Yes. So I had switched OB offices halfway while we were trying to get pregnant, and we had uh, all expectations to have a natural hospital birth. I knew I didn't want to have, any drugs or anything like that. And then I knew I wanted a doula. So we interviewed and hired a doula. Let's see, I got pregnant in the beginning of September. We interviewed her in December. And I live in a small little town, and she happened to live in this small little town. And I had thought about having a home birth previously, but my husband and I thought, oh, there's just no way, because we are 30 minutes from pretty much any of the hospitals. Like, oh, no way, we could not do that. Well, she had had a home birth in the little town that I lived in. So that made it okay, that is possible. And we had done a online birthing course through Mama Natural. I recommend that birthing course. It's amazing. And really just did our due diligence, educated ourselves. Our doula had recommended a midwife. We went and interviewed with her. I think I had about 3 pages worth of questions. I'm not kidding.
Wow.
Because it's a very big decision. I mean, for me now that I know what I know, it's like a no-brainer decision, but it's a very big decision for anyone who's used to the Western medicine model and used to, like no other woman that I know of except my ancestors has birthed at home, so like it's just not common. Um, and we decided that we were going to do it. I just knew deep down instinctually to my core that if I were to walk in a hospital while I was in labor, early labor, active labor, that my body would just shut down. I could feel it. Like I already know what my body would do if I walked into that environment. And that's what happens. We are primal beings. We want to be in a familiar place, in a safe place, in a quiet place, probably even dark, not with fluorescent lights and beeping and 5 people coming at you and trying to strap you up to a ton of different things. Um, so it was probably about halfway in my pregnancy, we did decide to do a home birth, and it, hands down, the best decision I've ever made in my life, I would say. The experience was just so beautiful. And I think a lot of it really boils down to the midwife I had. I mean, just like an angel, a blessing, like whoever gets to have her by their side while giving birth, like just her whole demeanor and how she practices what she does. And she used to work in a hospital as well. And then she ended up, doing her own business and doing home births. She has so much experience and just so much love for what she does. And, a lot of times you'll hear women say, by the time they get, farther down in their pregnancy, oh, I'm this much dilated, I'm this. She never once, I never knew, because those things don't matter. I mean, you could be 6 centimeters dilated for weeks before you go into labor. So it's unnecessary information that doesn't help. It just kind of plays with your head a little bit. So we did a home birth, and in New York State, I don't really know about other states, for a home birth, you have to go into labor before 42 weeks. And try and guess when I went into labor. 41 weeks, 6 days.
Oh boy.
So that was really, we had to weigh our, I was walking every single day. I mean, doing whatever we could do naturally to like coax her to come. And we had thought about doing a membrane sweep, but then we decided not to do that because there are risks that can come with that. So my midwife, had actually found out from another midwife down south of this drink concoction, and that it has helped women go into labor. So that is what I did on the 41-week, 6-day. And I was in active labor a few hours after I drank that concoction. I completely skipped early labor. I mean, usually like your contractions can be like more spaced out and they can come and they can go. No, completely skipped that part, went into active labor. So the midwife came, the doula came, and I ended up being in labor for around 20 hours. I had really, really bad back labor. We think that my daughter had her hand on her face. So yeah, and no pain medications. We used a TENS unit. That was pretty much the relief that I had, some essential oils. And then I think I pushed for around 2.5 hours. And then she was here, and it was really amazing. And then the care that I got from the midwife, the postpartum care. I mean, she came to our house, I think in the beginning, maybe every day for a couple days, and then like at least once or twice a week for like the remainder of the month. She cared for me, she cared for the baby. The baby she didn't even end up seeing a doctor until she was a few weeks old, and we started, she saw the chiropractor too. So Olivia's been going to the chiropractor once a month since she was born, because that's another thing that you don't know about, or people don't talk about it, how important it is to have babies adjusted after they're born, and then to continually have them be adjusted. So I've really learned so much from the research I did for myself to get pregnant, while I was pregnant, the birth education and resource, and then just learning from my doula and my midwife and the chiropractor. It's just, when I feel like when you immerse yourself in with like-minded people who have the same values as you can just learn so much.
You can. And I had a friend a long time ago. I mean, I'm sure her daughter's grown up now. Yeah, it was at least 20 years ago or more. Time goes by. But she had 2 little girls, and the second one was just kind of inconsolably crying.
Mm.
And the mom had always been going to the chiropractor, and she mentioned it, and the chiropractor said, bring the baby in. He said, going through the birth canal is not an easy trip.
Yeah.
And they're going head first, and so then there's a lot of pressure down on the head and neck region,
Mm-hmm.
and she said he gave her just a little micro adjustment.
Yeah.
And
Mm-hmm.
she said she just like relaxed completely, and she said it was like a different baby.
Mm-hmm.
Baby.
Yeah.
And and I think sometimes I think there's a lot of interesting information out there, about things that are scary. You know, this is the chiropractic is scary, that it's pop and crack and jerk.
Mhm.
And many chiropractors are very, very gentle.
Yeah.
And and then, what is a midwife? What is a doula? What is a and so have you found a community of people who want more information so that you because I know you started your business uh,
Mhm.
to help people
Mhm.
find all the information that you were going in multiple places to find.
Mhm. Yeah, right now I'm mainly helping with fertility. So helping women get pregnant because I feel that that's where a lot of support is needed right now. But I definitely do want to expand into pregnancy and birthing and postpartum because it is such an important part. Like, I could just shake the computer talking about it. It is so important, and I think it goes under the radar, and people don't understand the impact they can have on their children's health by taking certain steps themselves. And I just want to say, like, does that mean that I was perfect when I was pregnant? No. I mean, God, in the first trimester, I had nausea. I had to live off of pretzels, but that's fine. That's fine at the end of the day. It's just, um, you know, getting yourself educated about your options that you have and what's available to you and what you can do to help your health, the health of your baby. I mean, even just talking about gut health during pregnancy is like a whole topic in of itself that completely sets up your child's microbiome, their initial immunity coming into the world, and we just don't talk about it. When I was still going to the conventional OB office, I got no nutrition advice at all. Really, just what I could avoid or what I should avoid, and that if I really wanted to eat deli meat, that I should just microwave it first. That's that is the nutritional advice I was given.
Well, I know several people that they gave them no advice until all of a sudden they start to pressure on them. You're getting gestational diabetes,
Yes.
and
Mm-hmm.
it's like, really, could
Yeah.
we could we have had some help? And like you said, this is a big deal, making a baby.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't nourish yourself, I mean, the baby is okay, the baby's not really a parasite, but like a parasite, it gets everything first.
Yes.
And so if you're not eating for two,
Mm-hmm.
you're weakening your whole system
Mm-hmm.
right before the biggest challenge, which is the birth situation.
Yeah.
And so I agree with you in terms of the fact of how much information is out there. And I had no idea that there was that if this doesn't happen by this time in New York State, that then they want you to go to the hospital and probably to induce labor. And I have a book that I discovered called In Your Own Time, In Our Own Time. I'll put it in the comments, and you could put the site that you did the training with
Oh, sure.
in the comments so people can find that. But this book is about, especially like in America, the the move towards C sections, towards um, inducing labor so that people are able to know their baby's going to come on this day.
Mm-hmm.
That's not how babies are.
Yeah.
Babies come on their kind of come when they're ready.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily comfortable. That like that last couple of weeks of pregnancy is kind of, I mean, partly I I think it's designed that way so that people are they're like, I don't care what happens, I just want this to be over now. And
Mm-hmm.
because then your whole life has changed after the baby comes.
Yeah.
And you have what is the other thing my mom said? She said, your dad walked in after you were born, and I said to him, we've just blown the next 20 years. And then later, when she was like 50 or 60, she says, no, you never get over this thing being a parent.
No. Yeah.
And so it's just a process, but I think we've become pretty disconnected from a lot of natural knowledge that we used to have.
Absolutely. And our bodies in general. I mean, I think that was a huge issue that we had when we were trying to get pregnant. I was on the birth control forever. I didn't even know what my true cycle or rhythm looked like, truly feeling connected to your body and understanding the sign. I mean, our bodies give us a lot of signs, like when your fertile window is coming, when it's here, when it's the optimal time. And that goes for, kind of the contraception of it too. If you don't want to be on birth control, you can utilize the signs from your body to prevent pregnancy as well. But we are so over medicated and so busy and just on the go that we just don't even listen to our bodies at all.
I agree, and we're conditioned also when we have pain to get rid of it.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I think of pain as information, and I can wake up with a little stiff neck and I can ignore it, or I can pay attention to it and I can check, like, did I suddenly sleep on two pillows by accident? And so I have this crick. Or I can just ignore it and go through the day and just keep going and keep going. But I'm not paying attention that I'm cheating. I'm holding this side of myself. And so by the end of the day, not only is my neck more sore, then my arm is sore. Then I want aspirin maybe, or a glass of wine to just kick back. I just want to obliterate the pain. And the more we do that to our bodies, the worse the pain gets because it's trying to tell us something.
Mm-hmm.
So then it starts yelling at us. It's really uncomfortable, the yelling, the pain of yelling. But also time. So how did you learn to listen to your body or to interpret your body's messages? Because I think I always tell people, well, your body doesn't speak English. And I told a friend today, I said, in many ways, we understand our household pets, our cats and our dogs. We understand them much better than we understand our own bodies, and they don't speak English. So why can't we use the same understanding for ourselves?
I truly think the best way to do that is slowing down. You have to slow down, and that's how you can start picking up on it. And that's what happened to me basically when I became a mother. I had to slow down. I think going through the pregnancy, having the home birth, and then taking intentional time and steps towards healing my body has made me more aware of my body. And then naturally what came with motherhood is I was no longer on, looking back, like my husband and I, we would have like 2 or 3 weddings in a month sometimes over the summer. So it's like we're working full time in the pharmacy, 12-hour shifts. And then like in our free time, we're staying up late, partying with friends, it is what it is. We're in our 20s, but it's just that go, go, go. And I would feel a sense of pride and a sense of accomplishment that I'm so busy. I'm doing all of these things. I'm accomplishing all of these things. But really, I mean, you're just like driving yourself into the ground. So um, I think, yeah, slowing down is key, whether you're a parent or not. You have to take that time to be with yourself, to listen. And yeah, yeah, that's I think that's the biggest thing that you can do.
Well, and I think too, when you listen, what starts to happen is you put things together. Oh, when I feel like this, that means I need a little more sleep.
Mm-hmm.
When um, I just can't get focused and I can't get something done, that's a sign that something's out of balance.
Yeah.
I could be too hungry. I could be getting dehydrated. This happened all the time when I lived in Arizona. When it first would get hot, people they would completely forget that they needed more water,
Mm-hmm.
and people would do the craziest things. They drive through stop signs. They turn they turn from the wrong lane,
Oh, wow.
and or they'd be in the grocery store checking out, and then they just have a complete meltdown at the with the clerk, and it's like, yeah, that's it. Go home and drink some water so you
We're
don't
all thirsty.
and it's but these things, the first warning signs are subtle. The first messages your body sends you are subtle, and when you respond, the body responds.
Mm-hmm.
When you take a little more time, it kind of goes, and and more things happen. But you're also right that all the things you were doing were all the things that society told you were the greatest things to do,
Oh,
and
yeah.
that you were supposed to be doing them.
Mm-hmm.
And so let's see. I can't even imagine working 12 hours a day. Except for I did often. I often did it, but I was on my own schedule, and so I had breaks and I had
Yeah.
things. But so are you doing the pharmacy thing at all anymore, or part time, or?
I am no longer in retail. I work part-time in a medical marijuana dispensary. So I do that 1 to 2 days a week, and then just purely focusing on the fertility business. And then I'm also homeschooling Olivia as well. So
But your time is different, right?
it's very
How
different.
you schedule your time, and the thing I also think about often is the baby's time. Like people get maternity leave, and then they're going to go back to work, and so say they have to be work at 7. Well, they have to get that baby up at 5 in the
Yeah.
car carrier, drop them off at the preschool or the
Mm-hmm.
baby care, whatever, and it's not taking into account either the child's natural rhythm
Yeah.
and um, and then I think too that everybody has to do what they have to do to survive, and often people feel like they need two incomes because the economy is what it is.
Yeah.
But when you have a little child, I think they just need drifting time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, playing with this thing and leaving it and going to color and going back to this thing and then having a snack and a nap and getting up and finishing the coloring. There's something about that helps them to grow and learn decision making choices even. But
Mhm.
I also think it's a creative thing that when they are always programmed in, they're in daycare and that's we do this and we do that and we do the next thing and we do the next thing and then they come home and
Yeah.
we have 2 hours before everybody has to get to bed, bath and bed and so we have to eat and I'm like, oh, how hard would that be on everybody,
Mhm.
and now I'm looping back around to like postpartum recovery. I mean, that's a big event. It's not just a big event for the baby. It's a big event for the mom's body.
Mhm.
And then you're not getting much sleep afterward.
Yeah.
And and you're feeding the new person. So then again, nutrition is super important during the postpartum.
Extremely important. And a lot of times, mothers will go back to their provider, and their provider will recommend that they go on birth control. Yeah.
That soon?
Uh, Yeah. I
Oh
think
my goodness.
depending on nursing, and yeah, they could go on like a progesterone only one, I believe. Um, yeah. And we don't prioritize, I mean, most Americans already don't prioritize real food and nutrition. And then you go through pregnancy and birth, which it takes such a toll on your body. I mean, you are so nutrient depleted already. And then moms are expected to go to work, if you're lucky, if you even have the 6 to 8 weeks. We're expected to go back in 6 to 8 weeks. And a lot of times the dads don't even have time to take off with the baby. So it's hard. I mean, it's almost impossible for like a typical American family to even for the mom to nourish herself. I was fortunate that we have like the paid family leave in New York, so my husband was able to be home and help. And he's the chef in the house, so he would cook me nourishing foods, stews. I mean, my iron level, I can't remember exactly, but it was like an 8 after I gave birth. I had lost a lot of blood, and within just a couple of days it was back up to like a 12 or something like that, around there. So, and that's all nutrition and certain supplements too. um, I love organ supplements while you're pregnant and after. There's just so many. It's so nutrient dense, and we don't typically eat organ meats, in America. So finding a good quality um, like organ supplement is, I think, was super helpful for that healing period for myself. But it's so sad that, and it's like that saying where you work all day to pay for that expensive house that like you don't even live in because you're working. But the same goes for your family too. You have a family, but then you hardly even see them at the end of the day. And that works for some people. But yeah, I cherish the time. We are fortunate, and I cherish the time that we have had with Olivia growing up, and that I'm able to homeschool her, because I think the education system is a whole conversation in and of itself. Um,
Yeah.
but child-led learning. I mean, I just wish that it was more common and more accessible. So we do have some Montessori schools near us, and I would love to send her there, but it's like you need like a whole second job, third job to pay for the Montessori school. So, the next best thing is to just teach them at home and let them go outside and explore and become their own person and discover their own curiosities and passions and all of that.
Find their own bugs to just,
Yeah.
how they work and build things and mud and climb trees. And
Yeah, absolutely.
no, it's good. Well, I think that there's just a huge space here for, I think it's re-educating, or yeah, I think it's re-educating, because I think that we're educated away from listening to ourselves and
Mhm.
listening to our cycles in our own body, and um, wanting to do, wanting to do everything right, wanting to
Yeah.
compete in sports, wanting to do all kinds of things, where part of your female cycle is a drag. It's you know, but if you look at it as, this is a change in my iron level
Mhm.
at a certain time in the month. It's a change in my energy level. I might need different foods
Yeah.
leading up, just like you were saying, in terms of nutrition, nutrition to get yourself healthy to get pregnant. Well, if we just did this every month, if we did the health, what is the health I need as I enter this part of my cycle? What is the health I need here? What is the health I need to recover? It's in a
Mhm.
microcosm, like getting pregnant and being pregnant, right?
Mm.
Like getting pregnant is one thing, being pregnant is another thing,
Yeah.
and having the baby is a third thing. Then, as my mom said, then you got the next 20 years where you're taking care of everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a
So,
marathon that doesn't end.
right. And so how we can figure out ways and places of micro self-care within, now nutrition is a major self-care, and nutrition often falls to the woman in the family, but it sounds like you guys have a good partnership
Mhm.
in terms of that. But what we feed ourselves and what we feed our children is what allows us to be healthy and allows them to grow healthy.
Mhm.
And so I think nutrition is a really big part of that, and also being willing to change, which I hear in your story, is you were really willing to change when when you wanted to make a family, and so you knew you wanted to make a family, and okay, then we're going to change, and then I from what I heard is probably you're not going to 3 weddings a month anymore.
No.
Important weddings, yes, but not every wedding.
Mhm.
And and then you were also willing to change your diet, and you were willing to change your work. Now, everybody again will have their own challenges and things to change in their job or their work, but the thinking that everything has to be the same, or that after the baby everything will go back to being the way it was before the
Yeah.
baby was born,
Mhm.
that's a scary one. I have a former student, and she's just had a baby, and she's like, I don't know what I'm going to do. And I said, you have to make a decision right now. That time thing you talked about, how important, I said, maybe, like the week before the baby was born, she's like, well, I'm probably going to be able to do this, this, and this, and this. And the baby came, and she's like, I don't know if I can do any of those things I said before the baby was, she's like, I don't know. I don't even know if I can go back to work part time at, I'm so used to being with him home,
Mhm.
you know, and, and then who will take care? Finding somebody to take care of your child, even part time, is interesting and challenging.
Mhm.
And somebody who will, not feed them candy all day if that's what you don't want.
Yeah.
So I think that I think you've had a really fascinating uh, journey and full of changes. And it sounds like continuing to learn, continuing to explore. Are you, you think you'll have more kids, or do you know?
We have talked about it. I think being an entrepreneur presents its own challenges in terms of, having children. Because when we had Olivia, I got the 6 weeks pay and the paid family leave to kind of help. But when you're your own boss, that's kind of, you don't have that luxury. And then also, what was the other one I was going to say? Yeah, there's just a lot of things. And it's hard because we are enjoying this time with Olivia so much that, and I know that a lot of women, couples, families go through this. It's like how going from uh, the 1 to 2 or the 2 to 3, how will that look like for you, or what will that look like for you? So we definitely would like to. We would love to give her a younger sibling. We're just not quite sure yet, and that's okay. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. And I'm 33 right now, and for anyone listening, I know that Western traditional medicine will say when you're 35 and older that it's a geriatric pregnancy. But I can tell you wholeheartedly that I'm not concerned about getting closer to 35. I'm not freaking out because my eggs are getting older. I think it's just all about how you take care of yourself. You can help the quality of your eggs, and that's what I help my clients do. So when the time is right, it will happen, and if it's meant to be, we'll see. So yeah, it's definitely, I'm like constantly kind of on the fence about it. Could I have another one? I don't know. I want to have another one, but I'm not sure how I could do it all because it is a lot.
It is a lot. It is a lot.
Yeah.
And are you close to your extended family on either side?
We are about an hour away. So back when we both were still working in retail, we worked every other weekend, and they would come and watch her. They'll come and watch her now if we have a weekend away or anything like that. So we are close to family. She's close to her grandparents and her cousins, so that's really nice.
It is, and it's another form of support, which a lot of times people who have been moved and moved and moved for their jobs and are very
Mhm.
far
Yeah.
from the extended family, they don't have that kind of support.
Mm-hmm.
And that causes stress and creates different decisions that need to be made.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I heard you say that too, is that each person it's like working with each person. Each person is their own story, their own journey, and their own family.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been delightful talking to you.
Yes, you too, Laura.
And so thank you very much for sharing. And like I said, we'll put some of those things in the comments so that people can find them. And if people have questions, put them in the comments and we'll come back and answer them or point you in the direction to get an answer.
Yes, I'm all about sharing resources because knowledge is power, and so happy to help anyone. So it's been a pleasure talking with you as always. I think we could talk for hours on so
Probably.
many different topics.
Yes, and thank you so much. And take good care.
You too.